Hi, everyone. I came across this spreadsheet done by one of my colleagues, which really illustrates the effectiveness of using an indexed annuity. I realize that not everyone is informed about index annuities and really doesn't know exactly how they work. So hopefully by the end of this 5-minute video, you'll be able to understand at least a basic um, understanding of how they work. Um, Essentially, this really shows how the sequence of market returns affects the total outcome of a portfolio based on a retirement scenario. So what we have here are the actual market returns of the S&P essentially for the last 18 years, 2018 back to 2000, with a $100,000 investment, and it shows um, how that portfolio would look if you didn't touch it whatsoever. So you start out at 100,000 and you end up with 170. It's a 2.9% average return. Now, if we use this as a basis and put in an indexed annuity that has a cap of 45% of market returns, however, also has essentially a floor that you cannot have any losses. So in a negative 10% year, you have a 0% return. So essentially, it's holding up the portfolio to only have positive gains. However, those positive gains are limited. You can see here in the last 20 years, if you had bought one of these vehicles, you would have a 4.1% historical average return versus if you had it in the market, you'd have 2.9%. Again, with a lot of ups and downs in the market where we have only positive upside on the index annuity. So now this shows without any withdrawals from the portfolio. Conventional wisdom tells us that if you use a factor of 4% as a withdrawal number, that you won't run out of money in a brokerage portfolio that's balanced using, say, modern portfolio theory, just rebalancing on a regular basis. So let's plug in 4% and see what that does to the portfolio based on just the last 20 years using the same sequence of returns in the market versus the index annuity. Well, if you look at the market returns, you're averaging 1.2% now because you're pulling out the 4%. On the index annuity side, because there are no losses, we're averaging 3.9%, pulling out the same amount of money, and yet our portfolio has more than double the amount of money. So let's take it, and if you say, Roy, every 10 years or 20 years doesn't look the same. So let's randomize it. The computer will randomize the returns and show us how that would look. So we hit the randomize button, and you can see now, using 2017 as our initial year, this presents 2% historical average return, pulling out $76,000, same amount pulled out, ending up with a balance of $53,000. Well, on the index annuity side, with a 45% limitation of gains but no loss, you can see that the historical return is 4% and still maintaining $99,000, even though we've pulled out $76,000 from the portfolio. So let's hit random again and see what happens. Okay, now here is a similar situation. I won't go over all the numbers, but you can see what happens when you have positive returns in the beginning and you sprinkle through your losses. It doesn't have as much of an impact. However, if you take out any negativity, it's still almost double the return. Let's hit it again one more time for fun. Again, 3.5 versus 4.1, 103 versus 87. Now let's see what happens with a 5%. Well, let's reset first to 0. Let's put in a 5% withdrawal rate and hit the indexed annuity. Here we have now 0.3% return because obviously we're drawing more out. We end up with $8,000. On the index annuity side, we're able to pull out more and still maintain a higher balance at the end of 20 years. So let's hit the random button and see what happens. Here we go. So here's one rare case where the market wins. Not that often though. But we still have the peace of mind of only upward gains. Let's hit it again. Again, same thing. You can see how a beginning higher return ends up with a higher historical return. Now let's, just for fun, reset. Let's see what happens at 6%. Okay, 6% makes a huge difference here because we actually run out of money in 13 years because we're unable to get back to square one. If we do the same thing with the indexed annuity, let's see what happens. With the indexed annuity, we don't run out of money, and we pull out a 3.7% return and end up with $37,000. So you can see the impact of no negative returns here. If we randomize it, let's see what happens. Okay, this is a little better year. However, still the indexed annuity does not present any losses. So I'm sure you may have questions about this, and if you want me to work your scenario to see how your own portfolio would work, we can put in actual numbers and actual rates of return. Give me a call at 610-695-8748 or email me at roy@yourwealthadvocate.com, or you can go on to my website, yourwealthadvocate.com, and set up an appointment right online. Hope to talk to you soon, and thanks for listening.